Time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod. It's been 2 weeks since our last episode, and a whole year, believe it or not. So happy New Year, everybody, and I hope everyone had a really good Christmas break, great holiday, and here we are, 2023, come a-blazing, and we're lighting things up with our new logo, if you hadn't noticed. And as a first episode to 2023, we're going to be diving right into the Escape Pod with our co-host Blake and looking back at everything that happened in Star Wars 2022 and a look ahead at 2023. Let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
All right, welcome back, sir.
Hello there. Good to be back as always. A new year.
Yeah, new year. I mean, what's crazy about Star Wars these days is anytime a new year rolls by, it's not like we're mourning time having gone by since the last Star Wars movie hit theaters like we were in 2006 after Revenge of the Sith was in the theater. And now here we are. Every single year that goes by, we got so much more to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure. It just feels like a whirlwind, honestly. I can't even believe it's been a year. There's just so much going on.
Yeah, it's been nuts. It's been a packed year. So in this episode, we're going to go back and just condensely talk about what exactly happened last year. For anyone who kind of missed anything, you mentioned just before we started recording that you hadn't even seen everything on the list. And
no, there's a few things. Like obviously I've seen all the shows and I've read a handful of books and stuff, but there's more behind the scenes stuff, like specific stuff that I recall coming out, and I was like, oh, I should watch that, and then just lost into the ether, never got to it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll get into that, and then we'll also do a little bit of looking ahead at 2023, what this year has in store, which is, of course, going to be a very incomplete list as soon as Celebration hits in spring, I guess, because later this year will be another Star Wars Celebration, and I feel like they always save a few things, they keep a few things up their sleeve for things like that. So, we'll just all look at this list as kind of a what's been confirmed for this year so far, with the rest of this year to kind of look forward to more announcements coming down the road. But before we kick things off, just got to say, Project YouTube is done. Every single episode that we've ever done on the podcast is now available on our YouTube channel. So go and subscribe.
It's very impressive. I'm honestly incredibly impressed to manage to get through all of that and put it up.
It was
a huge undertaking.
It was a huge undertaking, man. So yeah, if anyone doesn't know, the process was essentially downloading our MP3 file for each and every single podcast episode, which at the time when this process started, it was around 220 something, 225, 227, whatever. Now we're at about 236 or something around there, if I'm not mistaken. But we take the audio file, pipe it into a giant video loop that I constructed, and essentially exporting it out, waiting for that thing to render. And then once one of them is done, upload to YouTube, fill in the title, the description, just copy paste over from our original podcast upload, and throw in a thumbnail, and there you have it. Now the episode's on YouTube, but it's just like rinse and repeat for every single episode, all the way up until 200 and 30, whatever now it is. And,
Dang. So if you ever want to re-listen, easy way to search it, find it on YouTube.
yeah, you can find it on YouTube now. So go and subscribe there. Anyone who's listening right now to Star Wars Escape Pod on Spotify or Google or Castbox or iHeartRadio, whatever you're on, go and subscribe to the YouTube channel because, the more subscribers we get, the more stuff that we can do down the road. Because at a certain subscriber level, we unlock like new kind of channel features and stuff like that. We'll be able to utilize the actual video aspect a little more from the channel. I know that's something that, we've both wanted to do for a little while, create, shorts or whatever. And so, yeah, go and subscribe and maybe find your favorite episode on there. Give it a like. The other thing we're going to be doing is, because this process takes a bit more time to distribute on YouTube with the conversion process with the video loop, we're going to be doing premieres for each new episode the day after the podcast episode's been published. So if you're listening to this episode right now on a podcast app, audio only, what's going to happen is you can go to YouTube and find it there the next day, set to release at a certain time, probably 1 p.m., something around there. And you can feel free to kind of watch it live as if it was being aired live on YouTube. It's just a new thing that they've got, for the last couple of years now. They've had this premiere feature. So
I've used it a few times. It's pretty neat. And then I think there's often like a chat, so you can chat with people who are also watching at the same time as you.
Yeah, exactly. So that and the Discord. I mean, we're obviously we got the forums going on in the Discord server. We've had a few people join lately, but feel free to hit that link in the description box, join the Discord, and feel free to just jump in those forums. We want to hear what are your thoughts about Jedi Fallen Order and I don't know, Jedi Survivor, the upcoming game, whatever. Just speculate. We like to hear from our audience, and it's a great way for us to connect with people.
Or you could feel free to ask us any questions. If you had any burning questions, just at Josh or at Blake, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a massive server, so it's not like those kind of things are going to bother us like it would if there was like 100,000 people in there. But it's right now it's really fledgling, really small. So get in there while it's small and take advantage of the fact that you can just connect with us individually like that. Swell. Go check out Swell. Minor mention of that, but I've been posting little swells of the week where I just pose a question, and that's pretty much it. Sometimes we'll get a reply, and sometimes we don't. But just as an example, I feel like I should just play like a small little segment of one, just so you guys know what I'm talking about. So here we go. Here was the most recent one. I'll play a little bit of this.
Hello, Swell, and this is going to be our last Swell of 2022, at least it is right now, 2022, in the part of the world in which I am currently flying the Escape Pod. And we've had quite a year of Star Wars, of course, behind us. 2022 is filled with a lot of cool stuff. And we got even more to look forward to in 2023. But first off, I got to say this. Thank you so much to Jack and Taylor for replying to so many of the swells I've put out so far. I know it's a fairly rejuvenated account that I've got going on here with Star Wars Escape on Swell. But, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to post a little kind of question of the week. Not quite long enough to do a full-length podcast episode, and some of you guys here on Swell aren't into listening to full-length podcast episodes, which is all good. So that's what makes me very happy to get involved here and bring the Star Wars to you. So question of the week, our last question of the week for 2022. What was your favorite Star Wars of 2022? There's so much to choose from. I mean, we kicked off the year with the Book of Boba Fett.
All right, yeah. So that's a little preview.
It almost feels like an ad for the podcast we're doing right now.
Yeah, you know what?
Specific episode.
It almost is. Yeah, Swell got it first. So yeah, here we are with the full length. But yeah, go check out Swell. It's free, and it's a bit like if Twitter were to be transformed into audio only, it's a little bit like that. So it's kind of cool. 2022. let's kick things off here. So we started off the year with, can you remember what it was?
Well, according to our list, it's Book of Boba Fett.
It was. You are correct, sir. Yeah.
Oh man, getting like PTSD flashbacks with that sound.
From the trivia, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Man, like, so, because this last year was so busy, and it's all just kind of a blob in my head. So that means Book of Boba Fett came out at the beginning of last year, like.
Yeah, it was
early spring.
I think it was the beginning of last year or like the end of the year before. But let me just.
Man, it's crazy.
Here. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it was a while ago. Sorry, yeah, it was.
No,
it was
feels
December,
recent to me.
December 29th, 2021. That's when it premiered, and it ran until
over
February.
A year.
Yeah, so the majority of the show was last year. You know, it was between January and February for the majority of the show. But yeah, it was a year ago. And it doesn't feel like it's been a year ago, does it?
No, it doesn't. Honestly, it feels about 6 months for me, maximum.
Right. Yeah. It's so what do we think of that show? I mean, like, obviously we did like all those reviews, those breakdowns for each episode each week. You know, the general consensus, I feel like if I'm remembering correctly, was overall it was fairly good. Chase scenes continue to suck. And and there was something else. Boba's lost his badassery a little bit. But
yeah, I think that's pretty accurate to what we had generally felt about it. It felt like a step down from Mandalorian, I think. I think it was tricky because I know, at least from my perspective, Mando is what we had pictured Boba Fett of the original trilogy to be.
Right.
Like he was that badass bounty hunter. Then he went off, you know, did his own storyline with Baby Yoda. But then I feel like because they did that with Mando, they couldn't redo the same thing with Boba. So that's why they made him become this like crime lord. But he was the honorable one amongst the thieves, and it didn't play well with me, I think.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, I haven't seen this show in a year, so it's probably worth a rewatch to kind of see how I feel about it after a second watch.
So I'm going to be honest, like
that's where I left off. I think Boba, the main issue for me was Boba wasn't enough of a badass, which is the last point you said there.
Yeah. So I'm going to be honest. I recently rewatched this entire show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, like within the last 3 weeks kind of thing. And it's aged a little better on me. I think maybe it helped having, you know, showing it to somebody else. Maybe I was a little more optimistic with, you know, wanting it to feel like, I guess, better the second time. Or I don't know.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. I just like, I there was something about rewatching it now, though, was just it aged a little better than I think when we were, you know, going week to week, just kind of doing our regular breakdown review.
Right. And then you're probably expecting more of the flashbacks because you'd seen it before, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think like once the expectations are taken out of the equation, a lot of these shows tend to age a little better than initial viewing goes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it really is true, though. I think the last couple episodes are significantly better than the first part of the show. And
did it still feel janky with the Mandalorian episodes kind of in the middle?
So that for me is when the show gets good, but
it's not a Boba Fett show though at that point.
No, but that's when it's a good episode though, right? Because it's nothing against Boba Fett at all. It's just really like, do we like the style of the show? You know, how does the scale feel? Are these characters written well? And these Mandalorian and Luke Skywalker episodes were just really well done. And it is, I guess, maybe something to do with the fact that perhaps maybe the story of the show was just like maybe not hitting all the right notes for a lot of people. But you know, the finale, it came together pretty well. I mean, that whole Rancor destruction of the city it's still very cool. I still have my own little personal gripes with how Cad Bane looked, but you know, I'm okay to drop it. I mean, I'm not like one of those people that has to hold on to it for life kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's just a TV thing, I think, because I mean, the Grand Inquisitor had the same exact issue where it was makeup applied, not enough facial head prosthetic to change the shape of someone's head from being round to like more long, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Overall, good show. Could have been better. Still was great. Very, still rewatchable. And I'm looking forward to seeing if there's going to be a season 2. So.
Good point. I think I'm due for rewatch on that one. Yeah, I've seen both Mandalorian seasons multiple times, and I haven't got back to Boba Fett yet. So. Yeah.
Well, and Mandalorian season 3 is right around the corner, so. Might be
is that too?
Might be worth a rewatch.
I was going to say, us and any fans that are willing to do it and kick off 2023 the same way we started 2022, watching Book of Boba Fett.
Watching Book of Boba Fett, that's right. Next up on the list, Disney Gallery, the Book of Boba Fett. So every now and again, when a Disney Plus show comes out, they always do a really cool behind-the-scenes look at the show that came out. And it's called Disney Gallery. And this particular one, of course, focuses on the never before seen footage and technology that they use to make the Book of Boba Fett, and interviews with the cast and the crew. And from what I remember, because I've only seen it once and it was a while ago, I remember it to be pretty good. But that was a highlight for me as well, of course, seeing how they pulled off the new and improved digital Luke Skywalker. And seeing Mark Hamill in the Jedi robes and everything like that, that show was instrumental for all of that. So that was a cool highlight of last year for me. Did you see this one?
That's one of the few that I didn't get to, actually.
Gotcha. All right.
Most of what I didn't get to is behind the scenes stuff, which is strange for me because I love that sort of stuff. It's been a busy year.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, shortly after that came out, I believe it was Obi-Wan Kenobi is next up on the list, which came out last year. And this has got to be one of the most, I guess, like
anticipated.
Anticipated shows that Star Wars fans were looking forward to for so long. Bringing together Obi-Wan, or Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen again for another duel. And I guess the number one question that I've got for you, now that this show is kind of behind us, is how has it aged? And is that fight scene that we got at the very end in the finale, does it fit in for you? Like, looking back at the chronology of events that take place, like, has it aged well in your mind, or do you kind of regret that this show had to happen the way it did?
Interesting. So I feel like all the shows, I have at least a few gripes. Maybe it's just, as they say, you're a harsh critic to the things you love.
Right.
But this show, first of all, I want to start off by saying I did really enjoy it. And I think it is head and shoulders above in film quality than last time we saw Ewan McGregor. I would say, like, I love the prequels, but this felt more theatrical to me. I think, like, it had more of at least a modern crisp to it.
Yeah.
But the issues I ran into was probably mainly that around that last fight and some Vadery stuff, I guess. Mainly, it felt a little Force Unleashed, if you know what I mean. Well, I mean, it's kind of inevitable, but especially all the superhero stuff we're seeing, right? With all the like overpowered and magics and all this sort of stuff. But I think we're losing that mystery and finesse that we had in the original trilogy, which is what this timeline is supposed to be around. So we gotta, we did push the line a bit with the prequels, with force powers and stuff, but I think it's getting to the realm of fan fiction, which George was always really good at knowing the limits, and I think we're getting out of his box, and it really showed in this show, I thought.
Really? Okay. What's an example? just so people know?
Just the amount of like the final battle, at least what's coming to my mind is when they're having the
The rock lifting,
the rock stuff.
yeah.
Which was another. I mean, it was again rock stuff was the exact issue that I had with Rey as well. Right? It's getting too powerful. What we see
Yoda struggle to lift
Yoda
a
struggles
pillar.
exactly.
Yeah.
So why now is this so easy for everyone else and Yoda's almost 1,000 years old?
Yeah, and that's a debate. That's a topic that we could even do a full podcast episode on at some point. Just like when are Force powers and their scale like relevant to a show, and is it appropriate to like have something like that happen in the canon when X or when Y happens as well, right? So yeah, I mean, I agree. It can cause a lot of questions, and I have a few questions of my own. As far as the actual quality of the show goes, like you say, awesome show, loved the music, and I ended up realizing that final duel between Obi-Wan and Vader, with this story slotted in the middle, I think it's fine. I think we can accept
like
it.
back to back with A New Hope lines up well.
I think most of it does, not all of it, but then again, somehow the prequels happened and it still doesn't really line up with Obi-Wan not remembering R2 from a hole in the wall. But like there's always going to be those little inconsistencies, and especially when you're making stories in a timeline in which things are happening. I mean, if you look at like the amount of things that are happening right now, it's like we're looking at all the stories being made. We're looking at stories being made after episode 6. We're looking at stories like The Bad Batch happening right after episode 3. So, I mean, like how tough is it to juggle the continuity sometimes? And
yeah, for sure.
It's extremely difficult. So yeah,
and that's why they created the Lucasfilm Story Group. But I also see the issue of they want to let creative people be creative with making this stuff and not just
down.
limit their creativity.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I mean, I can let a few things slide here and there. I think that's why I have such a bigger problem with the things that I don't know why they didn't fix when they could, like Cad Bane's face, like the Grand Inquisitor's face, like Ahsoka's Montrails, right? Like it's things like that that I'm
like let me play devil's advocate, right? Like it could be something as simple as they working on the props and they didn't get a full thing ready before the show was ready to film, and they just didn't have time to go back and change it.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously the TV is on a different schedule, different budget. Disney Plus, I thought, would be different.
There's a lot of money, but if you have to push back a whole film schedule because of one prop, I think it doesn't really make sense.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So but again, yeah, it's those little gripes. Like, it's not like I hate all these shows just because of those little things. It's just like they're little things that sting if I were to rewatch, but I can let it go. After Obi-Wan Kenobi came out, we had a really fabulous documentary, very touching actually, called The Jedi's Return, and it's another Disney Gallery style episode. And I took a few audio clips a long time, like back in September. I took these audio clips, never used them on the podcast. So I'm gonna play some of them now, just because I feel like since you haven't seen it, maybe other people listening right now haven't seen it. This is just like a nice little preview. We'll just go clip by clip. And here's the first one here. This is how it started, I believe.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first official day. So this is also our first official day with Ewan, who not only is Obi-Wan Kenobi, but is also a producer and a partner on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a long time. It's been a long time coming. This many years we've been talking about doing this, and it's exciting and unbelievable almost that here we are.
Yeah, so there's one. I actually didn't know that Obi-Wan was a producer. I keep calling him Obi-Wan. I didn't know that Ewan was a producer. Yeah, I mean, maybe I didn't pay attention to the credits as closely as I should have, but I thought that was kind of cool. That was Deborah Chow, the lead, the director on the series. And here's another little clip.
It's a very meditative process for me. Sometimes my mind wanders, mostly about the scene we're about to do. The difference between Anakin and Darth Vader, and is Anakin completely gone or not? He is fully Darth Vader, he's fully consumed by the dark side. But I like to believe that there's always a little bit of Anakin still in there. As it was explained to me by George Lucas, even when he becomes Darth Vader and even when he's fully immersed in the dark side, he is still the chosen one.
Yeah, so there's a little audio clip by Hayden Christensen just like sharing some knowledge that George kind of gave him back when he was directing Hayden, as that when Darth Vader is Darth Vader, he's still the chosen one, even when he turns to the dark side. You know, that is his true destiny. And I feel like this audio clip here should solve a lot of, you know, fan debates as to whether or not that's the case. But right. Here we are many years later still talking about it.
Yeah, so true, eh? And that actually brings to light one of the things I really liked about this show, which was when Obi-Wan is confronted by Vader and he tries to apologize, and then Vader says, "No, I killed Anakin."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He says to Obi-Wan, because he identifies as Vader, right? And so yeah, he says to Obi-Wan, like, you know, you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, like I did. And he's like really just kind of like bringing out his alter ego and in that scene. And I love that scene. And I think that's why that particular fight has aged well for me, is even though it doesn't 100% link up with the dialogue exchange in episode 4, it's enough for me that I'd rather have all that in Obi-Wan Kenobi than not at all. Right. And we've got a lot to kind of thank Obi-Wan Kenobi for delivering that kind of stuff. You know, if we have to go through the whole show just to get that exchange between those two characters in that final fight scene, you know, let's bring it on. Right. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's a deep perspective too, in that this was an opportunity to try and take all what we know about Darth Vader and his life now, as well as Obi-Wan, and fit it in closer to what we got with A New Hope. So a lot of that stuff that didn't make sense, like this, how we left off with Revenge of the Sith, they're able to actually like supplement that a bit.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Here's I got two more. Here's another little one.
Qui-Gon does finally appear, yeah. It was so amazing to work with Liam again, because of course I only worked with Liam in the first film, you know. So amazing to see him again as Qui-Gon, you know. It's just incredible.
I spoke to Deborah a number of months ago, and she told me that Ewan was going to do this series, and Deborah, just something towards the end, where Obi-Wan has gone through some journey and he's reaching out for help, and you're not there. That's Qui-Gon Jinn. And then he sees you. And I thought, yeah, I'm on board. I'm definitely on board with that. It was at once very familiar, and at the same time I kept thinking, wait a minute, it's 24 years since we made The Phantom Menace. And here we were with a whole brand new crew. Deborah, this wonderful director. It's lovely to see Ewan. And so the myth and the storytelling goes on.
Obi-Wan has re-established a connection with Qui-Gon, and he's back to being the Obi-Wan that we knew and loved. And it's because of Leia, and it's because of characters like Tala, who bring that faith back to him, who bring hope back to him.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool little audio clip, especially the acknowledgement with Liam in there. That was something that we've all been wanting for years.
Man, so cool. Just I hadn't heard that before. So hearing Liam Neeson like reminisce a bit.
Yeah.
You know, 24 years ago when they filmed Phantom Menace. It's hard to believe it's been that long.
It's crazy. Unbelievable, right? And yeah, because the Phantom Menace took longer than any of the other Star Wars movies to do, as far as its total production time.
Oh yeah, I think it was almost a decade, right?
Oh yeah, I mean if you count George's kind of writing block in there, yeah, it was a long time. It was nearly 10 years. But it's crazy that I just that we go all this time with wanting to hear Liam in Yoda's head instructing him in that scene on Polis Massa and Revenge of the Sith. And with that scene removed from the final edit or removed from the script, it was always just one of those things that fans, it lingered with us, kind of wondering like, oh, that mission that Yoda gives Obi-Wan in the desert, training for him, right? How to commune with his old master, and seeing his eyes light up, like, Qui-Gon, and finally kind of being able to get that moment, and that kind of, it's not a critical essential part of this whole show, but it's one of those gratifying realizations that you have at the very kind of start, where it's acknowledged that he tries to communicate with Qui-Gon, but because he's lost his way, he hasn't used the Force in so long, he can't do it anymore. And finally at the end of the series, when he kind of realizes who he is and reconnects with what he is, Qui-Gon comes back to him and he says to Obi-Wan that he's always been there, and that he never left. And it kind of reminded me a little bit about the Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2, and when Harry kind of drops the resurrection stone after seeing all his loved ones around him, and he just says like, you'll stay close to me, right? Yeah, and I won't be able to see you, or he won't be able to see you, but I'll know that you're all going to be there, and we'll be here, you see, his father says, and he points at his heart. And I was like, oh, that's such a good story. Like it's any time you get something like that, it just hits the right note. And it's like with Obi-Wan, it was no different. And like Qui-Gon's always been such a special character to Star Wars fans. And having a scene like that, it was like, oh, that's good. Like that's good stuff. So that was a great little clip there.
Do you think the timing was right though? Not to get into, I guess, get away from these nice vibes. But do you think the timing was right for when they revealed Qui-Gon? Because part of me wonders if it would have been better if he showed up when Obi-Wan was trapped under those rocks.
Yeah, I think that would have also been a really good time to do it. I don't know, maybe his voice only, maybe not like the visual, Force ghost of Qui-Gon, but yeah, I mean that could have been a really good time as well. I think in that moment where we're already kind of just shock and awe with what's actually going on with, especially with Anakin's face reveal behind the helmet only moments later, I feel like it might have been just a little much in one sequence. And
okay,
I would have liked it either way. I mean, I think you're onto something with the timing. I don't think it was poor timing at the very end though, because at the very, very end, you're almost not expecting it to happen, and then it's like, oh, there he is.
Yeah, exactly. We forgot. Let's just throw it at the end.
Yeah. But I do like it. I do like the fact a lot that he helps lead Obi-Wan to his place of residence that you later find him in Episode 4. And I also love what he says about how it's people like Leia and Tala that restored his faith in the Force. Without people like that, he would have been lost, right? And I think it's such a good tribute to why Episode 4 is called A New Hope. And even long before this show was even a thing, George called it A New Hope way back when, right? And it's worth noting, like, Luke Skywalker is supposed to be that new hope for the galaxy, right? And he may not be the chosen one, but he's so critical in that story, right? He's so critical in redeeming his father so that his father can fulfill his prophecy. And with the whole trilogy being Vader telling Luke, what his destiny is, it goes backwards. And I always thought that was such a great kind of little thing at the very end there at the audio clip, just an acknowledgement to the fact that without these other people in Obi-Wan's life, he would have still been a rat in the desert, as Maul would say. Here's one more clip for you.
Mythology that has now allowed others to come in and build upon.
It's exciting to see the saga continue.
Coming into the Star Wars galaxy and getting to be part of this world, it's pretty special. It's in everybody's life. Everybody's grown up with it in some respect.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
So many people have such an emotional relationship to it, and so it is quite meaningful in the broader context of your life. The Star Wars Alliance, there's so many different generations involved in it, and there's so many people who care so passionately about it. George Lucas created these characters that are so rich and that have such huge inner lives. And so taking on these characters and trying to tell the middle part of the journey, I feel hugely fortunate to be able to do this, but also a big responsibility to trying to do it right.
Yeah, so that was Deborah Chow again at the very end there. But yeah, very cool show. I mean, I mean, we've talked enough about it already so far, but yeah, I think it's gonna age well. I think it's gonna age well.
Man, it just we haven't even gotten through the whole list yet, and just think about how much Star Wars content we've gotten like this over this year.
Isn't it crazy?
It's because like I've been really like living in like kind of day to day this year.
Yeah.
So looking back and actually just like
taking it all in.
Taking it all in, like it's a lot. Like, could you imagine?
Oh yeah,
it'd be like getting all the prequels in 1 year.
Yeah, it's nuts, right? I mean, like if you count screen time, it's like more than the prequels. Like as far as like on-screen hours that in the day, right?
It's crazy. I never thought I'd see the day when this was happening.
I don't think anyone did. Yeah. And let's hit the next thing on our list is, you guessed it, Andor. Very unique show, having been the most recent that we had our Andor after show sub-series on. And I think the general consensus of this show was it was just overall really well appreciated and liked, and you know, people who aren't normally into Star Wars found something in this show that they were able to enjoy, which I think is great because Star Wars is such a wide galaxy full of different stories and myths, and Andor just kind of added another genre to the mix, which was this cool spy espionage thing, and kind of approached the political struggles from a more interesting perspective rather than just in the Senate halls all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I really like this show quite a bit. I would say, I think when we did the reviews, I like headshot. It was more or less what I said. This was the breath of fresh air that I think the series needed. It just took everything in such a different light, and like you said, brought all these other fans. And I think especially for me and probably other film goers, with all the superhero shows and stuff we've been getting, like the general Star Wars movie, it kind of falls into that, you know, fantasy high adventure, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think people are getting a little burned out with that because there's just been so many shows over the last 10 years, really. So something Andor coming out where it's a slower paced, more dramatic show, I think that's exactly what people needed. And I know that's exactly what I wanted. So I like this show quite a lot.
Yeah. It was really well done, you know, and the episode count was longer than normal. I like the fact that they approached this show from a standpoint of having a set amount of seasons in place, you know, with an overall constructed story long before the end has been shot and filmed. And, you know, it's a very wise way to make a show because, you know, we've seen what happens when story is not planned out in its fullest to the end, and it can go left, right, and back and forth, and you know, and no consistency, and a bunch of other problems, and you know, this was just one of those shows that was just so solid, you know, from the very moment that they announced it all the way through. You know, you didn't hear about any weird kind of directorial changes last minute, and rewrites or whatever, just like kind of stuff like that, like all the drama that normally surrounds a lot of Star Wars projects. Like I feel like this one just slipped under that radar, like almost the whole way.
Smooth.
Yeah.
I didn't hear any news anyway about stuff coming up with this show. It was announced. People were like, including myself, like, oh, this character, we don't know anything about him. It's like, does he really need a show? And then just nothing. And then bam, it's out and it's great. And it's like, oh,
yeah.
I'm so used to hearing about all this, behind the scenes drama, directors and stuff. It just didn't happen.
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute. A Star Wars show can come out without all the drama? Like, yeah, no, I'm with you there.
I do wonder if maybe that's why, because it was a character that is less tied down, story-wise with just history. The people writing the show and running it were able to just kind of do what they wanted, as long as it reaches the end point, like, and then you don't step on any other toes. You can kind of just do whatever you want.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, like, that obviously can have an effect, and maybe that played a part in it. A little bit more freedom with that character to kind of do what they wished. As far as the overall kind of story of the rebellion, though, that was a big one. I think that would have been, in my opinion, probably the biggest struggle when making Andor, is like, what's this show going to do to change existing EU Legends material or tamper with existing canon when it comes to timeline of events, as to like the creation of the rebellion, who's involved with that process and everything else. But I feel like they managed to just pull it off in a way that fits really, really well into the existing stories. And we all really loved the show. So, I'm really looking forward to season 2.
Yeah, me too. I honestly can't think of any complaints for this show at all. Like, I know I've seen people complain about being too slow, but I liked that. Yeah. That actually made it better, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was certainly not a slow, at least for me, because I know, some people would say that. At least for me, I didn't find the pace to be overall majority-wise distracting. I did appreciate the fact that we were able to spend more time with these characters in a way that other shows had not been able to do. So, yeah. And I love the scope. I don't know, maybe I said that before when we were doing the after shows, but the costumes and the scope, the cinematography, like having those real location film sets, it went miles. You can totally tell the difference when you're looking at a show like Andor versus a show like Kenobi or Book of Boba Fett or Mandalorian. There's just something about the scale, like the shots, the angles, the realism of where they are in that moment. There's something very tangible to it. And, our friend Kirk on the podcast, he did a really great video essay on Andor, which I'm going to throw it in the description of this podcast episode. But
yeah, it's a good idea. Definitely, anyone listening, it's worth checking out.
Definitely, yeah. It sums it all up pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, Kirk did a great job, so it's definitely worth checking out his video and getting into those details.
Yeah, for sure. Next up on our list was Light and Magic, and I'm going to play this song because, recognizable from the trailer for Light and Magic. But this was a documentary series about the early days of ILM before Star Wars came out, and then followed a little bit of ILM's story and journey, kind of, I guess, in the post Star Wars era, if I'm remembering correctly. It was a while ago now that I watched it, but really great show. I can't say there was a whole lot of stuff that I learned from it, just because of all the years of having consumed, kind of similar material. It just kind of came at me as an entertaining perspective rather than informative. But there was a few things that I didn't know that they kind of threw in that show, and I was like, oh, this is going to be really, really cool, and a nice kind of tribute to all those brilliant minds behind that first film and the struggles that it took to get it off the ground.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. If you haven't seen a documentary and them pushing visual effects back in 77 or up to 77, it's definitely worth looking into. As you said, there has been a good number of documentaries that come out over the last 40 something year, 50 years. But I think this was just kind of a modern, like, put everything together and get it out to a new generation, because this has inspired so many people to get into the film industry.
Yeah.
And just seeing what they managed to accomplish compared to other films of that time, like, oh, it's unbelievable. They got a lot of awards for it, and well deserving. Because the first Planet of the Apes movie, Planet of the Apes, I believe it came out the same year or was very close to it. And if you do the visual effects side by side, it's night and day. It's just absolutely night and day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Light and Magic, everyone. If you haven't seen it yet, go and check it out. It's not that long to get through, and it's so interesting. Tales of the Jedi, that was kind of out of left field. Do you remember when that came out? It just kind of popped up as an announcement, and it was like, I think, at least for me, it just kind of blew me away as far as its existence, and I don't think they didn't announce it along with all those other shows, a couple of years ago when they announced like Lando and a bunch of other things. I don't think that was on the list. This one just kind of came up and is like, boom, 6 shorts, and maybe we'll get more of it in the future, and told 2 really, really good stories. One of them that we both were really looking forward to, which was the Count Dooku one. And it was just such a great fill in the gaps. This was literally like Star Wars Bondo, like, just a tube of Tales of the Jedi, and, plot hole fixed, right? So, yeah.
Quick, apply an animated Band-Aid. We need more comics.
Yeah, it was so good. And what I find very encouraging about the Disney Plus summary of the show is that it tells stories of the Jedi during the prequel era. I think it was like the stories from Ahsoka Tano, Count Dooku, and more. And it just kind of ends off on the and more. And I was like, oh, yes, please. Like, give us a season 2, like, give us some more characters in which we can tell little stories like that with.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. We need more Yaddle.
Oh, yeah. We need a whole one for Yaddle. A little while ago, we came up with a few ideas for good characters that they could do. But
Kitster. Where's our Kitster episode?
Where is Kitster? Yeah, that's right. And with it, of course, we got another really brilliant soundtrack by the likes of Kevin Kiner. So we're listening to Dooku's Fall right now, which is really ominous, kind of dark theme that was played when he makes his transition to the dark side.
It's similar to when Anakin's turning to the dark side.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, and through
Revenge of the Sith.
Through what I learned, at least from this animated series, was that him and Anakin are not so different.
No, they're not.
And that's what makes their rivalry almost that much more interesting. Is they're almost like like direct nemesis, right? What do you call that? Like an arch enemy. Arch enemy. Yeah, arch enemy. Like,
yeah, nemesis is also correct.
Yeah. Like they're like, just complete opposites in battle in a way, but really they're so similar that it's almost frightening, right? And
yeah, they have the same goals and ironically the same destiny. They just go about it differently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We also had the return of Liam Neeson voicing Qui-Gon in that show. And his son in real life plays the young version of his character when we had the episode that flashed back to the old days, the golden age of young Qui-Gon and Master Dooku. So that was also very cool to see.
I know, I was just particularly impressed that young Qui-Gon, even though he's not even 18 yet, he's still got a full 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah.
So that's Scottish blood.
Yeah, exactly. This year was packed, and I definitely have to mention this because, it was such a big part of last year, was Celebration Anaheim, which we had a variety of coverage right here in the Star Wars Discord server. So, definitely, once again, join the Discord. It's a good place to be. We have a Star Wars Celebration TV channel where we had the live YouTube embedded right there in the channel. You wouldn't miss it every day. And Celebration Live blog, I followed it as it was kind of streaming on YouTube and just typed messages here and there, just kind of summarizing the events that would happen and transpire through the course of the day. We had a couple of really cool announcements, like Volume 2 for Star Wars Visions coming out in 2023, this year, and a bunch of other things. Skeleton Crew, they announced that as well. So, yeah, lots of cool stuff happened, and there's going to be another celebration this year, so definitely looking forward to seeing any announcements that come out of that. Let's see.
Did they announce where the next celebration is going to be?
They did. It's going to be in London, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that's this year. So they alternate. 2020. Yeah, every second year they do it in Europe, and then they do it in the US on the off years. So yeah, I'm kind of jealous of everyone who's able to go this year, but I'll be watching from home.
You got family? Just go coincidentally visit it over the days that celebration's happening.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I could do that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it'll work out with the schedule. But yeah, Europe 2023 Star Wars Celebration. It's happening, what is it, April 7th, 2023. So in 3 months from now. And yeah, that's not that far away. So,
no, it's not.
Yeah, we will be in the Discord, keeping track, typing up those updates in the live blog. We're going to be chatting about it as well. Maybe I'll be in a voice channel. We can hang out, do a celebration day on the weekend or something like that together. And then we'll be doing our daily celebration coverage episodes as well, which you and I both did as well. Do you remember those?
I do, yeah. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. I think we could even possibly open it up, let people just drop in.
Yeah.
And join us and talk some Star Wars Celebration.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We can let people know and in the Discord when we're recording, and we'll get people dropping in and out. That'd be awesome. That's a great idea. Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation. Did you watch that?
Actually, I haven't seen this one. I've seen the Christmas one and the Halloween one, but I haven't seen the Summer Vacation. But I recall the Lego minifigures with Darth Vader with the swim trunks over top of his suit.
So in classic Lego Star Wars fashion, they've always got a little bit of Lego merch to go with the new release. But yeah, they've done 3 now. They've done the Halloween one, they've done a Christmas one, and now they've done a Summer Vacation one. So it makes me wonder what they're going to do next. But it was pretty cool. Like I did watch it. It's got some laughs in there. It's always got the crazy song, the musical number that they always do each year. Here's a quick little preview. There was one from Weird Al Yankovic, which
that's awesome.
Yeah, he did one called Scarif Beach Party.
It's a Scarif Beach Party.
We got to play that more on the podcast. It's a good one.
Oh man, I'm very impressed and surprised. I never ever would have expected Weird Al to be in a Star Wars Lego YouTube's what is it? Is it? I mean Disney Plus.
Yeah, Disney Plus.
Short movie.
I guess Weird Al must be a Star Wars fan or a Lego fan, one of the two.
Oh, he is a Star Wars fan. I know he did a song based on a leaked draft of the script of Phantom Menace, and it launched the same day as the movie, and he got a lot of it correct.
Oh, really?
So, some of it's wrong, but yeah,
that's pretty nuts.
You ever heard that song?
No, I never have.
It's based on the my Miss America Pie song.
Oh, interesting.
A long, long time ago, in a galaxy far away. It's actually a really good song. I used to listen to it all the time when I was like 12.
Oh man. Yeah, well, Weird Al. I mean, I guess he's back in a galaxy far, far away. Now producing music.
24 years later.
Yeah, 24 years later, producing for Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation. So Yeah. Next up is brief mention. Last year celebrated Attack of the Clones 20th anniversary. Where were you in 2002? I mean,
2002.
Yeah. Attack of the
Grade
Clones.
4?
It's
no, it's a little later than that.
Yeah, no, it's pretty nuts to think about how long ago it was. But Attack of the Clones, I mean, here we are, 20 years later. Tons of, I'm not even going to get into the list of details, but there was a ton of merch at Celebration, as well as Hot Toys, of course. Everyone's familiar with Hot Toys collectibles, you know, the sideshow stuff. They're producing a brand new refreshed lineup for Attack of the Clones for the 20th anniversary. And I would not be surprised if this year we would get maybe like a few delayed products from that celebration as well. It would be really cool for Hasbro to make a Phase 1 Clone Trooper helmet. I'm still waiting for the Phase 2 to, very anxiously waiting for Phase 2 to be released, because ever since they announced it, which is thankfully this year, but that would be really
that'd be
cool
so
as well.
cool. They got to do Phase 1 as well, and
They
a Rex special edition.
Oh yeah, I'd buy all those. Hasbro,
me
take my money.
Just make sure you get the welds right. Don't cheap out on the weld details for Rex's helmet.
Yeah.
I don't want any prints.
Exactly. Yeah, next up on our list, we had Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, the video game premiere make its debut this past year. And we played quite a bit of that game together on the Steam Remote Play multiplayer feature. And
that's right. And then I replayed it again at my place when I got it, and I got up to the same point, started the sequels, and then I just kind of never got back to it.
Yeah, it's a great game, you know. And any fans of the old Lego Star Wars games, there is a mumble mode to recreate those iconic sit downs where you couldn't understand the characters through a hole in the wall. But it's so cool.
Same as the original games from 2002 or whatever it was.
Yeah, they play good tribute to those. So you know, we've had some good fun with that. So that saw its debut last year. The High Republic Phase 2. This was a big one for last year. I'm not going to get into all the minor details as to what it was released, but the High Republic's been an ongoing multimedia project for the last couple of years, 2 to 3 years maybe. And we had a good time reviewing a lot of stuff from the Phase 1. So Phase 2 now, which is taking place about 200 years before Phase 1, if that makes any sense at all. So we had a few novels and comic series and junior novels, young adult novels, and so on and so forth release last year, and going forward this year as well will also be filled with Phase 2 content.
So there's some Phase 2 content already out.
There is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
but the main adult novel series is not out yet. I'm not mistaken.
You know what? For Phase 2. Okay, I think there is one. I believe it's called Convergence, but I'm not entirely sure. There's one. There's one of them that's out.
Okay, because I got a pre-order for one of them, which I think is the Claudia Gray novel.
Yeah, I think there's also a dedicated audiobook called The Battle of Jedi that's also supposed to be coming out yesterday. It should already be out. Look at that. So yeah,
what timing?
That is, yeah, what timing? So yeah, Phase 2. You can differentiate Phase 1 and Phase 2 by looking at the label. If the Star Wars: The High Republic label is in blue, that is a Phase 2 book or story. If it's a gold label, it'll be Phase 1. So that's the best way to kind of, you know, just determine what is from which phase. If that makes sense. Yeah.
That's I'm glad they're doing that, because there is a lot of content that has come out.
There is.
And so it'll get very confusing very quickly.
Oh, there is. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Brief mention, because I had to. I mean, you know, who wouldn't? John Williams last year in 2022, he turned 90 years old. And, you know, same year, of course, he makes us the theme for Obi-Wan Kenobi for that show. And, you know, he's still very much kicking around, active. As far as I know, he's doing the soundtrack for Indiana Jones 5 and the Dial of Destiny. So yeah, we have a lot more to look forward to from John or hopefully we have a lot more to look forward to from John Williams. But yeah,
agreed.
Many years of appreciating his work.
Yeah, honestly, he's just done such an amazing career of all the different theatrical films or theme songs and everything he's done. Like my entire childhood has been composed of John Williams.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to put it.
They just need to catalog his mind and turn it into an AI so that we can just have theatrical music for the rest of our lives that are just the linchpin of cinema.
Oh, yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Notable literature last year. We had so many things that this is a very trimmed down list. But Shadows of the Sith, as well as Brotherhood and Queen's Hope, which saw the finale book to the Padme trilogy. Brotherhood was a book about Anakin and Obi-Wan right after the events of Attack of the Clones, leading up to the Clone Wars show. And Shadows,
we did a review for that one.
Yeah, we did. We did a review for Brotherhood. We also did a review for Shadows of the Sith, which was a book filling in the gaps with the story about Luke and Lando looking for Achi of Bestoon.
Right. And that was a good book too. As long as you don't read the last chapter.
Yeah. It told the story of young Rey and the true story of how her parents died. And it really did a number for the sequels and kind of made a lot more things make sense. And we did a review for that book as well. So you can look for those in our podcast archives, which we've got so many now, and they're all across YouTube and podcast apps. All you have to do is scroll back. Marvel's Crimson Dawn, which was a Marvel comic series, followed the 2021's War of the Bounty Hunter story arc. This year now, 2023, Star Wars The Hidden Empire will conclude this 3-part story arc series. The series serves as the final entry in the trilogy, focusing on the character of Kira that we were introduced to in Solo, a Star Wars story, and her criminal organization, Crimson Dawn. So that's a brief mention of that.
This wasn't a replacement to the Han Solo film franchise, was it? Did they decide to turn it into comics?
As far as I know, this is also a little piece of news that we got from Ron Howard last year or this year. He basically said to someone in the press at one point in time that Lucasfilm is not prioritizing a sequel to Solo, a Star Wars story. So I think it is a replacement to needing to follow up with another film.
Okay. Similar to the end of Clone Wars then, where they did a bunch of comics and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I also think with that Lando series up their sleeve, I think maybe if that is in fact it is a Donald Glover-led series, as far as I know. But they're probably going to use that show as a way to maybe tie up loose ends, just the way that they used Rebels to tie up some loose ends from Clone Wars. So I guess we'll have to wait and see, but there's a little tidbit from that. And finally on the list of 2022 is, of course, a little bit of podcast news. Already mentioned it before, but Project YouTube is complete. We expanded the Discord server as well. We gained more Twitter and Instagram following with our first giveaway, sponsored by Orbitkey. And we hit an all-time high for most downloads in a month back in November. So, a few little updates there.
Yeah, so thank you for listening, because we achieved that because you're all hard work.
Yes. Huge thank you to all our listeners, because of course, we'd probably be doing this either way, but it's always nice to know that people are listening,
Yeah, it's not just, voices in the ether.
Yeah. All right, 2023, let's do a little bit of speculating and then we'll wrap things up.
Another happy landing.
All right, 2023 kicks things off with The Bad Batch Season 2. And
it's right around the corner.
Oh, right around the corner. It's out, man. It's out as of today. The first 2 episodes are on Disney Plus right now. Yeah.
Wow, I definitely knew that.
And you know what? What's funny is you are a member in our Discord, but those people in the Discord server would know that anytime a new show or big Star Wars event happens, you'll see it in the top left-hand corner of the Star Wars server, and it'll say happening now and the event with a link. And right now, the Bad Batch Season 2 premiere is happening. So you never miss a thing with Star Wars news with our Discord server. Bad Batch Season 2, we're going to be reviewing the first 2 episodes next week in next week's episode of the podcast. So far, I mean, I don't want to say much, of course, for those who haven't, been able to watch it yet, but it's off to a great start. So I guess, we can talk about that as the weeks go by. And
so you have already watched the first 2 episodes then?
I have, yeah. I did the midnight release. I did the midnight release.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So next up in 2023 is going to be Jedi Survivor, the sequel to highly acclaimed Jedi Fallen Order, and features a returning character, Cal Kestis, and his adventures with the crew of the Mantis. There is a few teaser cinematic trailers out there for anyone who has seen them. I'm very much looking forward to playing this game because I really thoroughly enjoyed the first one. I can't remember. Did you play the first one?
I did, yeah. I really enjoyed it quite a lot. I thought the story was super cool. I really liked the character, and I would say it is my favorite Star Wars game of the EA generation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know we've had our fair share getting good use out of Battlefront 2, but I feel like this one was just one of those games. It didn't have a rough start like Battlefront 2 did. Whereas Battlefront 2 has a reputation with the most downvoted Reddit comment in history. This one, on the other hand, was quite the opposite. It was very well appreciated by Star Wars fans. The story was great, had good value, and it added a lot of good stuff to the canon.
If you haven't played it, definitely check it out. The gameplay is kind of similar to Assassin's Creed, only Star Wars, and I would say has a better storyline.
Yeah. So Jedi Survivor, we're looking forward to that. So that also is in our list of Discord Star Wars events. And what do I have here? If I click on, if you scroll up to the top and you hit the little calendar thing that says 3 events, you can see a list of all the events that are going to happen. Friday,
I saw that. I saw the release date for Mandalorian Season 3.
There you go, yeah. So Friday, March 17th at midnight is the release date for Jedi Survivor. It'll be releasing on PC, Xbox One, XNS, PS5, and takes place 5 years after Jedi Fallen Order, which is coincidentally the same year that Obi-Wan Kenobi takes place. There will be a novel that I guess preludes the events of this game, and it's going to be called Jedi Battle Scars. So I'm very much looking forward to that novel this year as well.
So you're going to read that one?
I'm definitely going to read that one. Yeah.
Okay. This is very similar to what they did with the Bad Batch games. It's not Bad Batch, the Battlefront 2 games.
Battlefront 2. Yeah, exactly. And, Inferno Squad, the Battlefront 2 novel.
That's right. I hope this novel's better.
I do too. Yeah. Yeah. Not that I disliked it, but it wasn't like a overall like fabulous novel. It was just like just another Star Wars novel.
It was slow. It was just really slow.
Yeah. Star Wars Hunters. This gets a small mention only because it's been talked up for so long at this point that I feel like people have forgotten about it. But Star Wars Hunters is going to be a free-to-play, player versus player competitive arena combat game. It's being developed for Nintendo Switch, iOS, and Android, and is set to be released this year. There is a trailer for it as well, and that is all we know. I don't believe there's any kind of canon story to it or anything like that, but anyone who's into the free-to-play mobile games, this is going to be one for you.
I find it funny that Switch is just like lumped in with phone games.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't want to start up a ruckus, but I mean, as far as like the Switch's like power goes, yeah. Okay. I'll just put it this way. I'm kind of surprised that it's lumped in with consoles and not mobile.
It's just a different type of gaming, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
That's what it is.
Such a weird.
I have a Switch, and I enjoy playing the Switch. But they're games that you wouldn't buy on Xbox.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's
except
just
maybe
like,
Smash Bros.
Yeah. So it's definitely got some of those some of the little quirks about it. It's like, yeah, it's more of like one of those handheld, like I would put it more in line with like a DS and a Game Boy, you know, and like you can use it as a console, but I just, in my mind, I don't group it in with things like a GameCube and, you know, an Xbox. Like I just kind of, for some reason, my brain just doesn't quite comprehend that it's an actual console, but it is what it
Fair
is.
enough.
It's
the future, man. You can take it with you. Play on the train.
Yeah. So next up on the list here is The Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah, and March 1st is coming out sooner than I realized.
Yeah, that's not too far away. And there is a few trailers for this already. I know so many people are looking forward to seeing the continuing adventures of Din Djarin and Grogu, and taking place immediately after their spoiler for Book of Boba Fett, immediately after their appearances in that series. So going back to what we were talking about in Book of Boba Fett, you know, it's time for a rewatch because you know, it's essentially
it all ties together.
2.5. Yeah.
We're gonna have to do a trailer breakdown as well. I don't think we've done that yet. We've been so busy with all this other stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Andor and whatnot.
Busy with Andor, and then the holidays, and I mean, now we got Bad Batch. I mean, I think we're gonna be taken along for the ride. We'll have to do a special episode release one week and do 2 in 1 week. But yeah, it's coming up quick. So we're looking forward to that. Visions Volume 2. You, myself, Bryce, we all sat down and watched Star Wars Visions in its entirety back when that came out. And I think, you know, Bryce is very much like an anime guy, so he had a lot to say about it. It was one of my more saturated experiences, like seeing anime, and, you know, seeing Star Wars anime was, you know, in itself like a very unique experience. But yeah, are you looking forward to season 2?
Yeah, I am. I've always been an anime fan as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of on and off. Or I watched a lot of anime back in the day, not realizing it was anime, and now I just have this built-in nostalgia for it.
Right.
So I enjoyed Visions quite a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it had some really unique storylines, some of which I really want to be expanded into a series. So we'll see what happens with that. As of right now, as we know, it's not canon, but there's some cool stuff.
Yeah. So this year's Star Wars Visions, I should call it Volume 2, not Season 2, will consist of 9 shorts done by various studios, whereas the last volume was mostly Japanese studios. This volume will consist of global anime studios from Japan, India, the UK, Ireland, Spain, Chile, France, South Africa, and the USA. So we're going international on the anime style this time around. So we're going to be getting almost like more kind of different visual, I guess, depictions of what this galaxy would look like in anime form. So I'm looking forward to it. You know, some of them were quite creative. We also got some pretty crazy songs like this one. You remember this?
I do, yeah.
Tatooine Rhapsody.
I was to say, yeah, they played this at the Boonta Eve.
Yeah. You mean the Jabba Jammer? Yeah.
That's right. Oh man, that's what it was called. Oh my
god.
It was in the Boonta Eve Stadium.
No, the Jabba Jammer was one of those one of the answers I came up with for that question that Phil had on the trivia.
Oh,
the trivia,
I believe that was the name of the concert, though.
It could have been. I mean, like, that's the thing. I think this anime inspired me to make that answer.
Makes sense. I can see that. Tickets now live for the Jabba Jammer.
Yeah. Tickets now live for the Jabba Jammer. Yeah. So. Oh man.
Just can't even understand what you're saying.
Yeah. All right, that's enough of that. All right, Ahsoka, that makes its debut later this year. We don't have a dedicated release date as of yet, but TBD. And I'm assuming we're probably gonna get a trailer. I would imagine Mandalorian season 3's got to come out before we get a trailer for Ahsoka. But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with this show. Perhaps tie a bunch of things together before we hit some sort of cinematic conclusion that's been promised for a while for all these live action shows taking place after Return of the Jedi, with the upcoming speculated appearance of Thrawn, and of course a live action Ezra Bridger. The casting for the show is very interesting. It's been confirmed we're going to see a live action Sabine Wren, which is also very cool, and Hera Syndulla. So I'm very much looking for forward to the show, and I know you are too.
Yeah, this is probably the show after the Obi-Wan series I've been most excited for.
Yeah, I feel like this is also such a great opportunity for Dave Filoni to really spread his wings, because this show is being helmed by him, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's just going to be one of those stories that I feel like will take him into his live action film directorial debut. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We also had an announcement at Celebration last year for a very interesting, very curious show led by Jude Law called Skeleton Crew. And I don't know too much other than the fact that it is supposed to be post Return of the Jedi. It's supposed to be about a bunch of kids, coming of age story. They get lost in space.
I figured it out. So, the kids that are in the Jedi Temple when Anakin shows up and they're like, Master Skywalker, what are we going to do?
Yep.
And he ignites his lightsaber and we all know what happens. Well, those kids raised from the dead. Now they're skeletons and they're a crew.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Wait, I think you're looking at
Jude Law. Jude Law's a necromancer.
Oh man, I think the chances of that happening are even less than Luke's chance at blowing up the Death Star. But yeah, I think this show is definitely supposed to be targeting a bit of a younger age audience, but still live action. And I believe Favreau is involved as well. And it's. Yeah, John Watts is created by John Watts and Christopher Ford. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. There's like literally nothing about this show so far, in other than like a title card. But yeah, we do know that it's been inspired as a Amblin Entertainment style coming of age adventure. I'm picturing like Stranger Things, but in Star Wars universe. So I guess we'll have to see how it goes.
Well, that'd be kind of neat.
Yeah.
See how that goes. Maybe, I could see it being somewhat inspired by maybe the kid from The Last Jedi, Broom Boy.
Yeah, Broom Boy. Maybe he'll have his, I don't know, his like younger brother or something, or his older brother is gonna. I don't know. This is long before the sequel, so yeah. Who knows? Maybe it's like the father of Broom Boy or something like that.
Broom Boy origin story.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, Young Jedi Adventures. This is not going to be something a whole lot of Star Wars fans are going to be watching. It's an animated series taking place in the High Republic, and I believe it features Yoda and a bunch of other characters, new to a series which is geared for people of the age that would turn on Disney Junior every day. So we're talking like...
Is that what Star Wars Resistance was on? Or was that XD?
Resistance was on Disney XD, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So this show is very much geared for, I would say, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, preschoolers, young Star Wars fans. Might be the kind of thing that a lot of families would appreciate, if they're resistant to showing their 5-year-old the original trilogy or whatever your choice is. So yeah, I mean, I'll probably watch it just because I'm kind of curious to know what it's going to be like. And but I got to be honest, my expectations are definitely not that high. And I'm not a family, I don't have a young person to look after. So to me, it's not going to mean much. But to some people, it could, they might appreciate it a lot. So
I have a feeling that by the end of the year, next year, I guess we'll be doing a look back. You're gonna say, Young Jedi Adventures was the best content you consumed this last year.
Oh, geez. I think it's going to have to be a pretty bad year for me to say that.
Might surprise you. You never know. Maybe we'll get some crazy reveal, like a Star Killers get young Plagueis. I don't know.
Oh, man. Well, another exciting part. This isn't Star Wars, but I have to bring it up. Is Lucasfilm's next entry in the Indiana Jones series, Indiana Jones 5 and the Dial of Destiny. That is the next, I guess, is Harrison Ford's outing as the character, as far as my understanding goes. I mean, this is a film that's been talked about since Disney bought Lucasfilm, and finally we're getting some stuff out of it, right?
So that's a good point. It's been a long time coming. Star Wars was always the forefront of the Star Wars Disney acquisition, but Indiana Jones was kind of always there in the shadows, people talking about that too.
I'm surprised they even risked it to wait this long, just with Harrison Ford's
Harrison
age.
Ford, he's in his 80s, right?
He's getting up there. I mean, he's not quite John Williams age, but he's up there. Let's see, how old is he? He's 80 years old. So he's 10 years behind John Williams. So it's definitely he's not a spring chicken anymore.
Well, he'll be springing into action this spring or whatever it comes out.
Yeah. I do love the fact that they've taken what they've learned on the Book of Boba Fett for Luke Skywalker and will be applying some really awesome CG flashback Harrison Ford younger Indiana Jones scenes in this movie. They showed a few in the trailer. They look fabulous. I'm very excited to see what happens in this movie and how they're going to address what happens to what's his name? Mutt? Or
Shia LaBeouf?
Yeah.
He goes by Mutt. I forget his real name.
It's Mutt, right?
That's what he goes by. Yeah, it's his
nickname. Oh, okay.
I think,
all right. Yeah.
Mutt.
So, Mutt. Yeah. Yeah. So very much looking forward to that.
If this goes well, like the CG and stuff, the de-aging, would you want them to continue to face replace Indiana Jones to make more Indiana Jones movies?
I think if the performance is there, I'd be okay with it.
For me, it's also the story. It's got to have a good storyline.
That's obviously most of the movie, because I mean, we sit there and watch movies like, I don't know, like you name it, Transformers, Marvel movies. I mean, Marvel movies tend to have more story.
I have seen tens of movies.
There's so many movies that's like it's 100% just a massive. It's considered live action, but it's mostly CG, right? And it's like I don't think having a digital protagonist, I don't think it takes away from the story at all, so long as the story is actually good.
And it's not distracting, right? Like, it's got to be done well.
Yeah,
if you're sitting there looking at it like, I can't tell if this is a human or AI.
Totally, yeah. So I mean, I'd be okay with it, but it's got to be pulled off well, and here's hoping that they can find someone that presents themselves as a very good double. I hate to think about a world without Harrison Ford, but let's be honest, like, the guy's not going to live forever. So how are they going to approach bringing back Indy without Harrison? Hopefully they can find someone that's got the voice, got the look, that they can actually do the CG double or deep fake, however one you call it, over top of them to get the Indiana Jones back.
Or just hire that kid who tried out for young Han Solo.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Next up on our list is a game that came out about 2 years ago with an expansion that came out last year, and it's Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge VR. Will be launching this month, I believe it is, on PS5 VR, and it's called Tales from the Galaxy's Edge Enhanced Edition with next-gen graphics and probably new ways in the game to just enjoy it all over again in a brand new kind of HD fidelity. So
Speaking of which, I still need to swing by your place and do the original one.
Oh, yeah, I think you need to finish the Vader series too. The Vader Immortal series. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So many good Star Wars games.
That's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, it is. All right. And that is so far the list for 2023. I figured it was worth noting that we have some unforeseen releases on the horizon. I don't believe these are confirmed for 2023. In fact, I don't think they will come out in 2023. But of course, we are getting a show called Star Wars The Acolyte. A lot of people know this. Taking place at the end of the High Republic. Filming, I believe.
My guess is then that won't come out until after, or at least up to phase 3 of the Old Republic is going on.
Yeah.
Like novels and stuff.
I think that's their plan. I think it might be an early 2024 thing, just based on production is already, I believe it's already doing its shooting. They did some casting announcements and they shared a few pictures on StarWars.com a little while back. So it is on the way, and it will take place. I think it's about 100 years-ish before the Phantom Menace, something around there. So, we have yet to get more details on the show, but it is at the very tail end of the High Republic, and it's going to be a bit more focused on kind of the mystery of the Sith's return and I think their plots to infiltrate the Jedi somehow. So that's going to be very cool. Notable literature from this past year, from this upcoming year as well. I mentioned it before, as Jedi Battle Scars, the book that is going to be leading into Jedi Survivor, as well as The High Republic, The Battle of Jedha, which is the audiobook taking place in The High Republic Phase 2. And another book, which I thought really piqued my interest, is called Inquisitor, Rise of the Red Blade. And it's about a young Inquisitor who joins up the Inquisitors kind of shortly after the events of Revenge of the Sith, I guess, and will likely shed a little more light on who the Inquisitors are and perhaps why some of them joined the dark side, because a lot of them we just have no idea why they would, and why so many of them look so evil. If they were once Jedi, it doesn't make any sense.
The dark side corrupts, man.
Yeah. So I guess this book hopefully will shed a bit more light on the subject. Andor season 2. That's the last thing. Is I forgot to mention, we have no idea when this is going to come out. It could come out maybe at the very end of this year. It could come out in 2024. We don't know, but this is obviously very much highly anticipated. I mean, we loved Andor a lot, and season 2 is on the way. So this will be the final season, and it'll lead.
Something tells me that we're going to watch it, and it's going to be good and or great.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I would put it. So yeah, I mean, we've had such a crazy year last year. Such a good year ahead. We got so much to look forward to on the podcast as well. Of course, like I said, look for that new logo out there now, and look for our YouTube premieres happening the day after podcasts are going to be coming into you on audio podcast apps. Look for the YouTube premiere the day after, and join the Discord. So, is there any last minute things you want to bring up, sir?
Just, it's been a really fruitful year for Star Wars, and all the content's come out. Enjoyed it immensely, and I really hope this upcoming year, keeps that momentum.
Yeah, I do too. I hope we have a really great year ahead. There is so much to look forward to. Not to mention all the crazy good merch coming out. Merchandise.
It's always lots of good merch.
Yeah, good Lego sets.
More props.
Yeah, more props.
Got to start selling more prop replicas.
Yeah, they got to get on those helmets. They got to start making helmets that we want, not just reproducing the Boba Fett helmet over and over again with different prints on it. Yeah. Get us those clone helmets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're willing to spend more money, there's lots of options. But as far as like the Black Series, yeah, there's a lot of repeats.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm definitely hoping for some good clone helmets. But yeah, cool, man. Well, I guess next week the Bad Batch Season 2 premiere review. Until then, we'll catch you in the next one.
Episode 1 and 2.
Yes.
So look
1 and
forward
2.
to that.
Yep. Watch both.
Double down.
That's right.
All right. We'll see you out there. Keep flying.
All right. Well, and thank you to our esteemed listeners at home. If you've made it this far in the podcast, thank you so much for sticking with us as always on Star Wars Escape Pod. We're always so happy to have you, and for tuning in on YouTube. If you're tuning in on YouTube, thank you for joining us, and thank you for subscribing. Hit that like button. Feel free to drop a comment, and I'll try and get to every single comment that we get. It's going to be slow to take off, but you know what? Share that link with your friends. Best way to help us out is share this podcast with your Star Wars friends and family. Yeah. Tell them Star Wars Escape Pod is the place to be. And hit those 5 stars. See you in the Discord. And we'll see you in the next episode of Star Wars Escape Pod. May the Force be with you.